My name is Governor Lawrence Lawn Vest Stevens, and this is my lovely wife.
Hello, my name is Margaret Nelson Stevens Johnson.
I was born on December 21st in 1858, right here in Boonville, to Captain Joseph Lafayette Stevens and Martha Gibson Stevens. They're buried here in Walnut Grove. My grandparents, William and Emily Stevens, William and Emily Gibson, took care of U.S. Senator David Barton in his old age when he was penniless and destitute of family. They are also buried in Walnut Grove, not far from Senator Barton. I was born in the family home on the east side of 6th Street in Boonville, where Al and Donna Hahn live to this day. I had 6 siblings and 2 half-siblings. My older brother, William Speed Stevens, at one time owned Thespian Hall. And in 1901, after having the building refurbished, he opened it as the Stevens Opera House. My brother, William Gibson Stevens, 2 years my senior, who sadly died at the age of 20, was known by the family as Lon. After he died, I assumed the nickname Lon. My younger sister, Rhoda Stevens Johnson, built Rosalind Heights on Main Street in Boonville, and it is now the state headquarters for the Daughters of the American Revolution. I attended public schools in Boonville, graduating from Kemper Military, and I earned a law degree from the Washington and Lee University in Virginia in 1877. After earning my law degree, I traveled extensively through Europe. And then I returned to Boonville in 1878, where I became the owner of the newspaper, the Boonville Weekly Advertiser. In 1878, I also took a position at the Central National Bank of Boonville, where my father was the bank president. The bank building, which is located on the corner of Main and Morgan Street, where Snap's Hardware is today, was built to be the Central National Bank of Boonville, which was chartered in 1865. You may be familiar with the bronze dogs that are located on the roof of the porch at Laura Speed Elliott Middle School in Boonville. Those dogs were originally on either side of the entrance to Central Bank. They were given to my father as a gift in 1874 by New York Railroad tycoon Jay Gould in appreciation for my father's help in bringing the railroads to Boonville. So those dogs have been in our community for exactly 150 years. Over the years at the bank, I served as assistant cashier, vice president, and director.
I was born into a prominent family here in Boonville. My grandparents, Jacob and Nancy Shanks Wyan, owned and operated a store at the top of the cobblestone street that led down to the steamboat wharf on the Missouri River, and then on to Main Street at the top of the hill. Today, the Frederick Hotel sits on that parcel of land. My grandparents, in their elder years and in their wisdom, passed the store to to my parents, James and Margaret Jane Wyan Russell Nelson. My parents had their hands full with the store and 5 children to raise. My half-brother, James Russell, was the oldest. My mother had been widowed when he was small. James, bless his heart, outlived us all. He died at the ripe old age of 92. I was born in 1862 during the Civil War. But you understand, I don't like to talk about my age. My brother Arthur, born in 1879, died at the age of 26. It was a great loss for our family. He is with us here in Walnut Grove. My other brother, Louis, grew up to be a banker in St. Louis. And finally, my only sister, Nadine, married into the Leonard family. They own a farm south of town known as Ravenswood. In my youth, I was an accomplished student, attending the Cooper Institute here in Boonville. My parents sent me to Mrs. Reed's Select School in New York City, where I finished my education. After returning home, I had many suitors. But then Lawrence Lawn Vest Stevens came calling. Oh my. He was so handsome in those days. On October 5th, 1880, at the age of 18, I became his bride. We were married at the Methodist Episcopal Church on Spring Street here in town. It was a lovely service. I wish you all could have been there. I love children and young people so, but unfortunately, Lon and I were not blessed with children of our own. But you must know that we were both devoted to our nieces and nephews. And of course, not having children, I had time on my hands, and I was always willing to assist my husband in whatever endeavor he was involved with, including politics. But before we could start our political career, we had a terrible tragedy in our family.
That's right, Margaret. Sadly, my father, Joseph Stevens, died from an asthma attack in 1881. When the Fifth National Bank of St. Louis was declared insolvent in 1887, I was named receiver of the bank. And in 3 years, I recovered 98 cents on the dollar for the depositors. And then in 1890, Missouri Governor David Francis, for whom the Francis Quadrangle at the University of Missouri in Columbia is named, appointed me to fill the unexpired term of the Missouri State Treasurer, who had been convicted of embezzlement. By 1892, I had restored Missouri state finances and was elected to a full 4-year term. At the Missouri Democratic Party gubernatorial convention in 1896, I was nominated to run for governor. This was the first time that the Missouri Democrats had made a nomination by acclamation. Elected governor in November of 1896, I was sworn in on January 11th, 1897 as Missouri's 29th governor. You're probably thinking, 1897, Missouri had not been a state that long, 29 governors. How could that be? Well, as it turns out, in those days, and even up until 1965, Missouri governors were only allowed to serve one term. And before I became governor, even though Missouri had been a state for only 75 years, 16 of those former Missouri governors had only served terms of 2 years or less.
Well, as the governor's wife, I was known as a charming and stylish and graceful hostess who adored parties and entertaining. Oh my, we did have fun. Darling, you do know that we hold the record to this day for the most entertaining at the governor's mansion. As First Lady, I felt it was my duty to advocate for temperance and to be an upstanding